Thank you for investing your 1 hour of lunch in today's noontime seminar. This is only the second time that the college is holding such a seminar. And for those of you who are not familiar with this concept, as long ago as about 10 years, the president decided that the college would hold this type of a seminar where it was a BYOB. And it's not what you think, students. It's bring your own bag, your bento, bring your own bento, where the college would host a 1 hour sit down, eating your lunch, listening to a topic of interest, any topic of interest. This concept started about 10 years ago, and it's not a new concept. It takes place all over the world. It just took us that long to implement. And if you remember last month, our first noontime seminar, we invited Johnny B, a local artist, a regional artist who is very famous in the region, and he entertained us for a good hour. During that first noontime seminar, I believe today's speaker was here, and the college president got to know her, and today we are fortunate that she is able to spend her time, which in our terms, I believe, would be an investment that we make when we listen to her as she shares her expertise. I personally do not know Christina Hepburn, and I just came from a meeting across the street, but I did what any college student would do if they want to find a quick answer. What do you do? Google. Good. I got bits and pieces of information about Christina, and what's interesting is the first bit of information I got about her was that she is a marine conservationist, and it somewhat led her, or naturally led her, to being an underwater photographer. Being so good at what she does, she is a published photographer, she's an author, she's an artist. And then I read on further down, and I found out that she has years of experience in real estate. Now, we know people in real estate. We know of people in real estate. They are people with money. So why would someone with years of experience in a very lucrative field turn their back and go in a different direction? Well, we're going to find out. She must have fallen into something new, I don't know, something golden, maybe something with even more money. I'm not going to share what I learned later. I'm going to let her do that because I want you to hear it from the horse's mouth. But if anything, you students and everybody in here, listen to what she has to share. With all our biases, all our preconceived notions about anything, you know, we tend to sit and somebody says something, we giggle and all that. Let's devote the next few minutes to listen to what Christina has to share with us and learn. And hopefully, when we get out this afternoon, we will have gotten something, at least find out why she chose to leave such a lucrative field and go in a different direction. It's something I would like to know. Thank you, and welcome, Christina.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me? Or maybe we don't need a mic.
Hi. I was here, I guess, about 3 weeks ago when Johnny B was here and he entertained us, and I'm very honored to be here today. I want to thank Sir Vice President, for that wonderful introduction. It was more than I could have ever expected. I want to tell you first a little bit about myself and what I'm doing here and why I'm in Palau. I started coming to Palau in 2005 as a diver. And when I first landed here, I went on the Palau Aggressor. It's a little board that's in your waters that I've been on that boat probably about 12 or 13 times. And ever since 2005, I've been coming back to Palau every year because I fell in love with it during that time. And I was only a beginner diver and advanced diver at that time. And when I first started diving Blue Corner at Oolong Channel, I found myself in a pristine marine environment. And when I went under and saw the sharks and saw the giant clams and everything that you have here as the gift of God to you because you live here in this beautiful paradise, I knew for sure that I was a mermaid. And I felt like I had come home. And ever since that year, in 2005, I knew that I would always come back to Palau and contribute something a little bit more. In those days, I didn't really know what that was going to be like, but I knew that I would come back and do something with marine conservation, perhaps my writings, perhaps my art. I didn't quite know what it was. But I'd like to tell you a little bit about myself and my earlier life, because today I'm a transformational spiritual speaker, I'm a writer, I'm an artist, I'm an underwater photographer, and I integrate all of that with what I do. And it seems like a lot, but I guess that's why I don't sleep much, you know, because I kind of juggle it all. However, the Vice President is right. I was in business for many years. I was in real estate for, I would say, about 28 years of my life. Of course, I started when I was 10. And don't do the math. And so, you know, I have both a balanced left brain and right brain. And I'm not sure if you know what that means, but left brain is when we're linear and we're doing things like practicality in business, and the right side of the brain is when we're in our art and we're in spirit and when we're creating. So when I was 5 years old, I found myself in front of the mirror, and I was looking into my pupils like this, looking straight into my eyes, and I said, God, why did you put me in this body? Why this body? Why am I not black? Why am I not Chinese? Why am I not white? Why did you put me in this body? So from a very young age, I knew that I was spirit in this body, and that there was a spirit inside of me that was connected to God. And I was born and raised Roman Catholic because I was born in the Philippines, but I grew up in Canada. So I'm Canadian, but my heritage is Spanish Filipino. I always knew that there was an element of spirituality in us, in every single one of us. And I believe that that was the beginning of my spiritual quest, because I was always searching for the deeper meaning of God and spirituality and how I would pair that up with living a life of practicality and purpose. And so, you know, what I want to talk to you about today is about the present moment and how important that is, just to be in the present and not the past and in the future, because most of us are missing what's happening right now in the now, because we are driven by always striving or trying to get somewhere, trying to be better, having a goal, and being always about what's going to happen in the future, or we're in fear and we're worried about what's happened in the past. And I went through my life that way, actually, always striving, always overachieving. And it so happened that something happened to me when I was very young. And I was always a performer, you know. When I was 3 years old, I was put into school at a very young age because I could read and write when I was 3. And because of having apparently this higher IQ, I started kindergarten at that age. Academically, maybe I could have handled it, but emotionally and psychologically, I really was not ready for that step that my parents put me into. And I would always be asked to perform singing songs on stage, and I was a Polynesian dancer. I was on TV, I was dancing with a dance troupe, and I was just kind of doing my thing, you know, and always just being up front in the public. And then one day, I was dancing with my cousin and my sister, the three of us, at a party, and there was a lot of people at this party. And my cousin, who's quite an extrovert, was dancing away beside me. Then all of a sudden, my father said something out of the blue, and he was speaking to his sister. And he said, "Glenda, look at your daughter. She's such a great dancer." And so he publicly praised another female or another woman. I was only, 6 or 7, but another female in my presence. And I stopped dead in my tracks. I stopped dancing because I felt so ashamed, because I thought that I was the apple of my father's eye, right? I thought that I was his girl, I'm his daughter, and all of a sudden he's praising somebody else. And then if that wasn't bad enough, somebody in the audience said, "Oh, look at that young girl, she just got humiliated." So she actually publicly announced to everybody that I was embarrassed and humiliated, and so it was like a double-edged sword for me. And I ran from where I was into my father's arms, and he knew that he had said something wrong, but just like a typical guy, he didn't know what to say, he felt kind of guilty, and I was just crying, and I couldn't quite articulate to him the pain and the shame that I felt because he had praised my cousin and not me. So I realized from that moment onward that that was the day I decided that I wasn't good enough. I felt like whatever it is that I did or the dancing that I did was not good enough in my father's eye. So I put that belief in my head, and it became this limiting belief that would run my life for many years. And I was spiritually searching, and I was continuing to find what the deeper meaning of life was. And for most of us, something like that might happen in our life, where a parent or somebody in the schoolyard, or maybe we get bullied when we're in school, other kids are mean to us and tell us that we're not good enough, or they call us names, and somewhere inside of us we believe it, and we ingrain that in our head, and then it becomes the source of the way that we operate in our life. And for me, what happened was I was always overachieving. I always wanted to try to prove myself. I always wanted to see if my mother loved me, and no matter what I did, the A's that I got on my test, the grades, being in student council, being part of everything, I just wanted to be the one to excel, be the one to win. And even through my school years, through oratory, levels of competition, I would win these awards and everything, but it was always about achieving. It was always about feeling like I needed to be the one to be the best. But the truth is, in all the years that I did that, it didn't really bring me happiness in a sense, because it was always about striving and achieving and overachieving. It came from a place of ego. It came from a place of me trying to fulfill a sense of lack in myself. These insecurities that we feel about ourselves because we believe these things to be true. We believe that we're not good enough, and therefore we try to keep achieving and getting better so that people will perceive us as successful or the one who is leading the pack. And it's okay to be that in whatever situation that we choose. But there's a difference in coming from a place of feeling insecure and wanting to prove ourselves, or just coming from a place of, I know who I am, I'm coming from a place of service, and this is how I'm going to serve the world. And it took many years for me to undo that. And as the Vice President said, I did have a real estate career of 28 years, and I was really, really good at it. And at that time, that's what my purpose was. It was to serve the planet in terms of finding people their homes and bringing as much integrity and truth as I could to real estate. And yes, it really did pay a very good income. It paid for my many trips to Palau. At the times when I was on the aggressor liver board, I would bring groups here because I've always been a mermaid, actually. I mean, when I was a child in the Philippines, we also have very many islands there, the sea and the ocean there is also very beautiful. And I've always been very, very attached to the sea, the ocean. So when I was in real estate and I did my work that way, that's where I learned a lot of things. I learned a lot about business, I learned about marketing, I really learned a lot about people. Because first of all, when you handle people's money, you really learn a lot about people. But what happened to me was, I was always going to very many spiritual retreats because I was really trying to find the real meaning of true happiness and liberation was in the world, to live a life of peace and liberation. And so I was married for about 25 years, and I thought I had a perfect marriage. And my husband was actually my real estate partner as well. We were business partners and also married partners in life. I walked through my career and my marriage thinking that I had a perfect marriage and never worried about what may happen. I was always a trustful soul. And then one day in 2014, I found out a whole bunch of truths about my ex-husband that I didn't quite expect. And I realized very soon that my marriage was over. And it was a very, very painful and shocking time in my life. But I chose to deal with it with as much grace and class as I could. And I just kept asking God to help me through that process. And so at that point in time, I knew that my life was about to change. And when I found out the shocking news, my first landing was going to be Palau, because I found out the day before I was getting on a plane to come to Palau, and I was meeting a group of people here again to be on the liveaboard, the aggressor, and also to stay at the PPR at the time. And so when I got to Palau in 2014, in a state of shock, my first landing place was the PPR a few days before I was to go on the liveaboard, and nobody knew my process except me and my pain. And I knew that going into the ocean and into the depths of Palau and all the dive sites would heal me somewhat. And so this is partly why Palau is so close to my heart. I did a lot of healing here through my life, through the last 15 years, coming here every year, and especially that one time that was so important to me because I knew that my life was about to change. And it was also the year that a friend of mine introduced me to President Remengesau because of his marine conservation work and because of the marine sanctuary that you have here in Palau. And that you are so blessed to live in such a beautiful country. And I have dove all over the world, and Palau is definitely my favorite place to dive. And when I first met President Remengesau, he told me a story about how his grandchildren found some baby turtles that were crawling from underneath his house under the full moon in August. And when he told me that story and I started writing it, I integrated that with his marine conservation work, my love for Palau and the beauty here. And I got it published soon after in a magazine. And I just find it really interesting how that was also the deepest and most interesting, the most painful time of my life when my marriage ended. And it was also a new beginning for me in writing about Palau. So actually today is the first time that I'm speaking in front of a student body where I'm actually telling my story. And from that point forward, in 2014. I knew that my life in real estate was also over because I wanted to find a different way to serve the world. And I wanted to contribute through my life's journey and share the process that I've been through in my life in order to inspire people to know that each and every one of us has a purpose in life. And it is up to us to find what that purpose is. And so during that time in 2014, I dove deep into self-care. I wake up in the morning, the first thing I do is meditate and pray, and I ground myself and I find out what it is that I need to do and to contribute in that day. And the one thing that I've always known to be me is that I always go with the prompts of my heart. And to live that way is to live a life of trust. To know that God and the universe actually has our back. And no matter what it is that we intend to do in that day, no matter what it is that we have a purpose for, the universe will support that. And you know, one thing that people don't know about control, whenever we try to control something, it's actually an illusion. Control is actually an illusion. And I mean, it doesn't mean that we don't set intentions, that we say, okay, I have to be at the airport at 9 a.m. because my flight leaves at noon. Of course, we have to set those plans and intentions. But how many times have you set a goal or made a plan and then it changes all of a sudden, right? How many times in your life have you found that you gotta make a change because plans change or somebody changes, then we gotta go with the flow, you know? And it's about accepting that present moment the way it is in that moment. Because usually when we don't, that's when the stress comes in, you know, when something happens in our day and then we're resisting. And then resistance and anxiety actually only comes from the mind, because when something happens in our day and when plans already change, is there anything that we can really do about it? No, right? Because it's already there. And so the one thing that I have learned through one of my mentors is this: accept the present moment as if you asked for it. Because the truth is that it's already there. And our resistance to what is the only thing that gives us that stress and that feeling of anxiety, because we're fighting against the truth. You know, just like when I found out that my marriage was over, I mean, you know, I loved my husband, thought I had the perfect marriage, and then something showed up in my life and showed me the truth of what the situation was in our marriage that I couldn't quite fulfill. And I knew that it was over. And there were many times when I was in my bed in a fetal position, crying, and I, at that time, lived on the 23rd floor of an apartment building in Vancouver. And I would wake up every morning and I would see the sunrise, and I'd be praying to God while I was crying, and I would say, please, please, don't let this be the day that I jump off the balcony. Can you please just let me get through this day? And I trust that you have a plan for me, and I trust that my life is about to unfold. I don't know what that is, but I know that you will show me. And all I could do through the years, 2014, 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018, and here I am sitting in front of you today, is that I could only take one moment at a time. Only one moment. Because if I worried about the future and what was going to happen to me then, I wasn't going to be able to deal with what was happening to me in the present moment. And if I thought about the past, which was no longer there, which is no longer here, then I was in pain. because I was thinking about nostalgia, I was thinking about stuff that wasn't even in the present moment any longer. And all I could do was breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, and let life lead me from day to day. And through that time, I deepened in myself. And what eventually happened was I sold my apartment in Vancouver. I traveled, the only 2 years I didn't come to Palau was 2017 and 2018. I actually went on a quest. I went to Europe, and I went, it was a writing trip, a yoga trip, a spiritual trip, meditation trip. And there, I really went inside myself and went into journal. I did a lot of self-work. And what happened was I deepened in myself, and I realized that I couldn't go back to real estate because I had to be another person. I had to be a different person to be a realtor. I'm not judging realtors. I mean, there's probably many realtors who have a lot of integrity, and I certainly brought integrity to my job when I was a realtor. But it was still dealing with a different energy field. It was, you know, dealing with a lot of people, 8 types of personalities, and, you know, I just had evolved into something different in my life. And I knew that God was asking me to do something else. So I had to take a pause. I had to take a time out in my life, and I had to trust that whatever it was that was happening to me is what God and the universe was asking me to do. So I sold everything in Vancouver, and I bought a house on Vancouver Island. It was very beautiful. I could see the ocean, but it was a completely different energy field. You know, it was the country. It was very slow paced, and I basically gave up my life, fast-paced life in Vancouver, working 12 to 17 hours a day, driving my BMW, and always striving, you know, and the clients and the restaurants and all of that. I gave it up, and I found myself in my house on Vancouver Island. And it was also a time when my ex-husband decided that he was no longer going to adhere to the agreement that we had made in our separation. And I just went, okay, I guess that's the way it is. And I could have gone back to court. I could have done many other things, but I chose to walk in peace instead, and to trust that I was going to be taken care of. It was also the year that my mother had a heart attack, and my life seemed to, you know, become this topsy-turvy mess almost. And I found myself on a yoga mat. And then I enrolled for a course in Mind Valley, which is the biggest online wellness and spiritual-based online course in the world. And I found myself in a course called Speak and Inspire. And that's when I really realized that in my life of real estate, in my life of being in public so much and being able to publicly speak, it was a different premise from actually being authentically me and purely me and being unapologetic for who I was. Because it takes courage to be actually, to share your life's journey with people and to come from a place of truth and depth. Because the thing is, what I want to inspire you with today is that it is totally okay to be yourself. It is totally okay to have a life story. And whatever our hurts and our pains are in life, whatever happens to us in life, somebody else has a story. Somebody else has had an experience just like it. And we all think that our stories are the worst. You know, we feel this pain because we feel that our experience and our pain is worse than anybody else's, and what happened to us when we were children, the way that we were shamed, or the way that we were bullied in the schoolyard, or the way that some people treated us is the worst thing. And we don't want to share that story because we feel shame, you know, we feel afraid, and we don't want to tell that story. But you know, when we're vulnerable, and vulnerable, most of you know what that word means. Being vulnerable means being able to be real, being able to be who we are, and just telling it the way it is. Our power actually lies in that vulnerability. Because when you actually share your truth and you share that vulnerability with somebody else, you're connecting with somebody else's heart. And when you're connecting with somebody else's heart, you vibrate in this place of love. Now, there is nothing more powerful than the power of love. And for many, many years, there are many people who would actually not want to use the word love in their daily life, or in politics, or in academics. If somebody used the word love, they would say, my goodness, you're far too soft, and my goodness, love, it's not about love, that's not cool, But today, the consciousness of the planet is rising all over the world. You can see it with what we're dealing with climate change. You can see it with what we're dealing with in the world today, in our environment, and what's going on with the politics in the United States. Somebody shows up in the way they are, people don't like it, he's leading a nation. Everybody else in the United States has to step up to the plate, They really, really have to show up with who they are to contribute, to make a difference. Now, this year is also a very vulnerable year for Palau. It's an election year. You have an amazing president who's been in office for 16 years that's going to be passing the baton to someone else. And one day, during the October 1st celebration of independence, I came down from the Capitol. I was shooting, videotaping, doing my thing there, supporting the events. And I was with my friend Irene, and we went to the drop-off. It was late at night, and we had just driven down from the Capitol. We were starving. And I excused myself from the table. We were actually at the end of a long table, and there were 4 young men at the other end. And I had to say hello to the Italian ambassador who was there at the time, so I left the table. And when I came back, Irene said, Christina, I've just had this amazing conversation with these young men. And we asked them, if you were to speak to your elders today, if you were to speak to the politicians, to the government, what would you say? And this one man said that it was time to raise the consciousness of Palau, and that it was time for people here to have integrity. And when I heard that, I got goosebumps all over the place. I went, oh my goodness, you're speaking my language, who are you? And this young man was in the military in the States, and he went through a few years of being in the United States, and he had this awakening. And sure enough, we spoke about consciousness, and we spoke about integrity, and how it was perhaps time for the young people like yourselves to find your voice and to have the courage to show up as who you are and to share with your elders, with your brothers and sisters, with the people that you go to school with, to whoever it is that you come across, that here I am, I'm Palau, I have a voice, this is what I believe, these are the shoes that I stand in, and this is what I want you to know about me. And this is how I'm going to contribute to Palau. This is how I'm going to contribute to my country. This is how I'm going to show up. And this is who I believe that I am. And because it's a time of change here, it's an election year, it's a really, really good place to start. And I do believe that each and every one of us has a contribution in this lifetime. And it's about finding that. And you know, you guys are young, and you'll have a purpose now, and then it may change in 5 years. And then it may change again in 5 years. Then it may change again in 10 years. I mean, when I just shared with you about my life's journey, I mean, you know, I went to school, I was an overachiever, I was a cheerleader, I was in student council, I did this, I did that, I performed, I stopped performing, I silenced my voice because I thought I wasn't good enough. Then all of a sudden, I did a lot of self-work, and then I woke up, like, you know what? That's a limiting belief in my head, that I wasn't good enough. It was something that I believed because somebody had planted something there, and that I played it like a tape recorder for years. Until one day, I woke up, and I thought, I was not put in this lifetime, in this planet, not to have a voice, or just to speak about real estate, just to speak about selling houses, or just to drive my BMW because I think I'm so cool. You know, no. I thought, no, that's not what my purpose is. What is my purpose? And finally, I found that I was supposed to share my life's journey, and I became a published writer. And then through my photographs, my underwater photographs, and I also shoot topside. Topside is a term that underwater photographers use because we shoot underwater. So when I say topside, it means I'm shooting pictures, not underwater. So, you know, I did all that, and I do all that, and I integrate it. And I found my voice in my photographs. When I shoot my compositions, I try to shoot my fish and find the soul of the fish or the star or something like that. And then I integrate it with my stories, and there's always a spiritual element to what I say or what I want to express. The last story that I wrote was published for the September-October issue of a magazine where I featured President Rebecca Sal and the Marine Sanctuary and how it's sustained here. You have many gifts here, and I do want to invite you to find it in yourself, to find your voice, and to be unapologetic about who you are. And to be with nature once in a while. Just go in the ocean, or go for a walk, or whether you're a diver or a snorkeler, you know, being still, and just being still with yourself and being with God, that's where all the answers are. And don't be afraid to find what that answer is and to express who you are to the world. And with that, I just want to close and say, there's no other more powerful energy than the power of love. So also remember to always just choose the path of love in everything that you do. Loving kindness to everyone that you encounter. You don't even have to use those words. It's an energy that you give, and it will come back to you tenfold and 1,000-fold. So I thank you so much for being here today and sharing my life's journey. And I hope that our paths do cross again, and I think it will. Thank you very much.